Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare
The significance of chanting, the
Okay.
chanting that we don't understand all the time, the same way and same concept itself. Uh, there's a thing that Prabhupada disciples, we have a web page, a Facebook page that we share things on. One of them, you probably may have already had this, and you probably know it by heart. It says, "Why should we chant despite the obstacles?" This is always something that I had to realize years ago because I kept being in household life and being in my lifestyle in so many different ways and different things. It's always been a challenge for me to sit down and chant and chant in 16 rounds and all the other stuff. And it's almost impossible. I admit that I haven't and I don't all the time. But what I do, what I realized, I had this realization is that I listen to Srila Prabhupada as much as possible, even while I'm sleeping. And
So,
here's the saying. I'll read this for you. As a matter of fact, let me share my screen. Share screen. I want to share my screen with you. Uh, and we'll share this one. I'm just share. Let me know if you can see it. Uh,
yes, I see it.
okay. All right. Great. It says, "Why should we chant despite all the obstacles? Your mind is wandering all over the universe when you chant. Chant anyway." That part is probably in the beginning. We're always told that we have to be able to hear the holy name and focus and everything. And I know it says in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that to wherever and whenever the mind may wander due to its unsteady nature, one must learn to bring it back unto the self. And I realize that for me, that's almost as difficult as controlling the wind. I think Arjuna explained like that to control his mind. So the mind is wandering to the past and future. When you chant, chant anyway. You see, we're raised up, and unfortunately, we have these, what do you call it, paradigms that we're conditioned to. And one of them is to always think that we're not worthy or that we're all this and we're not that and so forth. And we consequently, we think that we need to be in a certain state of consciousness in order to be able to chant successfully. And considering the fact that, at least in my condition, I'm a neophyte, I can't understand it, how to be able to chant, period. It's just impossible. I can't. I'm trying. I'm trying. But I can understand when I hear Prabhupada. I'll talk about that later. It says, "You are not able to concentrate on Krishna's names while you chant. Chant anyway. You have no taste for chanting. Chant anyway. Sometimes I don't want to chant. I don't feel like chanting. And then I realize, well, that's because Maya has convinced me not to chant. And that's part of the problem. And if we realize when we're chanting where this whole chanting is coming from, it's not of the material world, it's of the spiritual world, then we can make some adjustment to our desires because we want to get out, but my mind and my heart and my desires are so minimal and lazy by nature. I'm lazy by nature. I just realized, well, I have another option. Now I'll explain that in the future with this conversation. It says you have no chase for chanting. Chant anyway. Do you guys have this, by the way? Either of
I don't
you?
have it, but I'm familiar. I've read this before.
Yeah, I'll add it to the text.
Mhm.
Everybody can get a copy. Uh,
Oh, so this is from the Bhakti oh my gosh.
hmm,
It's from a song, correct? A prayer book?
I'm not sure. This is something that we have. Some devotees have put that together.
Okay.
So. here's the other part. And this is actually, I think it's from Bhakti Vinod Thakur, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Um, you have no taste for chanting, chant anyway. You have lusty desires, chant anyway. My wife, she's always saying that I'm too lusty, but that's another story. But lust is always there. And lust is the perverted reflection of love, a love for Krishna. So if we're lusty by nature, then in order to get over that lust, we have to chant. And that's part of what I've had to deal with more than anything, because it's Arjuna says that it is lust. No, Krishna told Arjuna. Oh, Arjuna was asking the question. He says, "How is it that we're being forced to act, even though it's not our desire?" And all of a sudden, we get these desires, the lusted desires, and Krishna explained. He says that it is lust only, Arjuna, born of contact with the material mode of nature, and later transformed into wrath, which is the all-devouring sinful enemy of the world. And that's the bottom line. It is the all-devouring. Prabhupada always says there's two things that makes the world go around, and lust is one of them. And we are constantly dealing with that. Everything is centered around sex desire, lust desire, and sense gratification of unlimited uh, sense gratification. So that's when we have to remember just to chant. You are making offenses in chanting. Chant anyway. There are 10 offenses against the holy name. And I'm sure I've committed every one of them. And I realize this is probably about maybe, I'd say maybe 5 to 10 years ago. I had some of these realizations. And I said, well, I better figure something else out, because if I'm waiting to get purified or purify my consciousness in order to be able to chant properly, then it will never happen. Not this lifetime. And so you are not praying to Krishna to help you chant better, chant anyway. That's the one thing I do. I'm constantly praying to Krishna. I constantly say, please, Lord, help me. And in my experiences in the last several years, I've started talking to Krishna because I know he's hearing me. I know I'm not always hearing him, but I know he's hearing me. That's why we have this concept of prayer, that we're constantly praying to God so that we can hear clearly. We're hearing him. If we hear him clearly by being purified, then it's a lot easier. But in this state, I can only understand that he is in my heart. He is constantly listening. He's my best friend. He's waiting for me to be able to look towards him constantly without any reservations. And he's giving me all the help that I need to go back to home, back to Godhead. So we can't ask for a better friend. Can't ask for a better experience, period. There's nothing more wonderful than developing our love for God. So you are not praying to Krishna. You are not praying to Krishna to help you chant better. I do.
Did you ask him,
Chant.
hey, how'd it go?
No, I could, but I'm just like, it's just,
Ask him. Oh.
it's just a little,
Hmm. Are we all talking now? Is it okay?
We're good. We're good. I muted it.
All right. Okay. Fine. Uh, often late chant off. Often chant late at night. Chant anyway. So why chant Hare Krishna? Why should you chant despite all the above obstacles? That is, there is no vow like chanting the holy name. No knowledge superior to it. Krishna explains that in the Bhagavad Gita, that this is the most secret of all secrets. It's the ultimate knowledge. It's the ultimate secret. Because the secret is that if you just simply chant Hare Krishna, it doesn't take anything else. You don't need to be a scholar. You don't need to be able to quote verses. You don't need to be able to be a pure devotee all at one time. Simply, all you have to do is that you're going to hear and listen and hear and listen. It says again that there's no mantra is greater than itself. That's because when we by our fortune, have come into contact with the holy name, it existed before the universe. And that is why we also understand that Krishna, the name, is the real name of God. And we can prove it by the Vedanta explaining that before this universe existed, these names of God, Krishna, Narayan, all of the Vishnu forms that were created, all of them are transcendental sound vibrations that are not mundane. So any names that people have, if they've created them in this material world, since we've been human beings have been on this planet specifically, those names are either adjusted or have been invented or made up. And they may be bona fide names, which is also another scenario because the bona fide name means that it is the name of God and they're calling on God specifically for that, with that name. So, no penance is equal to it, and nothing is as potent or powerful as the holy name. Nothing is as potent or powerful as the holy name. Chanting is the greatest act of piety and the supreme refuge. Even the words of the Vedas do not possess sufficient power to describe its magnitude. You can actually, by chanting alone, you can obtain the same benefit if by having read all of the Vedas and examined the Vedas very carefully. The ultimate objective of the Vedas is as nothing close to being as powerful as just simply hearing the holy name. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. When they hear us and we're chanting, they have a very difficult time with it because by nature they are envious. All of us are envious of God. That's why we're here in the first place. But through the envy and getting over the envy is very difficult. But when people hear Krishna, they, in their present conscious mind, may not fully understand what they are hearing, but their subconscious or the chit aspect, the spiritual aspect of their consciousness, understands what they're hearing. They know they're hearing the name of God. People who have never heard or seen devotees before, if they hear us chanting, and if they're not envious and if they're not demoniac in their character, and they hear the chanting, they're attracted because it is the constitutional position of the living entity to want to be in association with the Lord directly. And because the chanting is non-different from Krishna, that's like what I just heard Prabhupada, somebody said that just simply by seeing or hearing the Bhagavad Gita, it is non-different than you sitting down and talking. Krishna is talking to you directly. That is a very wonderful, transcendental relationship that we have, just because there's nothing else easier to be able to hear and to be able to chant. And because by the Lord's mercy, He is perfect and He understands exactly how weak we are by nature and how insane we are, that He gives us something so simple that so that even at the time of death, that we will be able to remember Him and be able to go back to the spiritual world just by the chanting of the holy name. It says chanting is the highest path to liberation, peace, and eternal life. It's the easiest, the highest path. And that would actually, that discussion itself is something that we could use and we could be on that subject for weeks. Because when you're trying to understand, everybody's got this concept, this misunderstanding. They say that their religion is the best religion. And everybody else, excuse me one second, everybody else is their religion and everybody else is wrong. We say that everybody else, in order for us to be right, everybody else has to be right. It's not that they're wrong. They just don't understand all of the details because there's so much, just like Jesus told his followers. He says, "Greater things than this I have to tell you, but you are not ready to hear them because you can't hear if your mind is not purified up to a certain point." And most of them, even though they were divinely inspired, there's it's very difficult. The majority of the people that he was preaching to would not have been able to understand exactly what he was talking about if he started talking about the Mahavishnu and about the planets and about the this and about the that. So we have to understand that it's very, very difficult to bring people up to this point because they don't understand that when they're hearing the name of Hare Krishna and Hare Rama, that they are actually hearing the Lord directly. And that's the other part. There's no difference between the name and the Lord himself. It is the pinnacle of devotion, the heart's joyous proclivity and attraction, and the best form of remembrance of the Supreme Lord. Honey, could you let me have some water? uh, it is the pinnacle of devotion, the heart's joyous proclivity. When you chant and you really chant and you really just get into the groove. I remember there was one time when I was a young brahmachari, I was chanting, and you know how in the church people get the Holy Spirit? Well, I think I got it. I may not have had a full experience because I was still too ignorant, too lusty to appreciate what I was experiencing, but I understood that that was part of the bliss, the nectar of chanting, of hearing the holy name. The holy name has appeared solely for the benefit of the living entities as their Lord and Master. The holy name has appeared solely for the benefit of the living entities as their Lord and Master, supreme worshipful object, and a spiritual guide and mentor. Thank you. That is how merciful the holy name really is. I had an experience one time, my mother, at my mother's funeral, and I was saying how wonderful it was that at the end, and she was hearing the holy name. Well, this, I'm going to call him like my father used to call him, is a jive. He was a jive preacher, okay? He was a jive preacher. And he got up and he's telling then he said, that's not the holy name. The holy name, the only holy name is Jesus. The holy name is, and this and that and another and everything. And of course, I saw him literally fall down a couple of years later because he didn't understand the holy name. And at the time, I thought to myself, it's really my fault that he doesn't know that. It's my fault. Actually, it's my fault that the world doesn't know. And you know why? Because Prabhupada gave us the same spiritual capacity and the ability to be able to spread the chanting of the holy name. So I'm thinking, if I'm looking and I see that people don't know, then it's my fault. And we should understand that we've been given a task, a mission to explain about the holy name. And at the same time, we've actually been not fulfilling the desire of the spiritual master. So it's my fault. So the holy name has appeared. Now, this is the other part. If we can understand the spiritual divine appearances, just like Jesus, Muhammad, I'm touching upon when I say Moses only because I don't want to go there with that. But when you think of divine personalities appearing, it's easy to understand the appearance of that being, of that spiritual being. What we have to understand is that the spiritual being of the holy name is also present, is also manifest, It's just because we're looking with these material eyes. And Prabhupada explained that we have to be able to see God with our spiritual eyes. And those spiritual eyes can only be developed when they are, what is the right word? That when the eyes are anointed with the salve of love of God, that's when we can see Him. That's what we're actually doing. So, in the same way, we need to be able to have the salve, that part of the holy name, going into our ears, our physical ear, as being also the Lord entering. And how is it that the Lord is also dancing on our tongue? Because He is present in His holy name. That's a very, very deep, and I think we could probably spend time discussing this, because what would be a perception of the holy name by a pure devotee is not the same as our perception of the holy name in our conditioned state. We can't appreciate that we're actually having Krishna present in our relationship. And He's manifested through the holy name. Whoever continuously chants Lord Krishna's name, even in his sleep, can easily realize that the name is a direct manifestation of Krishna himself, despite the influences of Kali Yuga. And this is Bhaktivinoda Thakur's Sarangati, quoted from the Adi Purana. Now, this part right here, again, Lord Krishna's name, when whoever continuously chants Lord Krishna's name, even in sleep, can easily realize that the name is a direct manifestation of Krishna himself. This was the, what are there? There's nine, what do they call it? The 9 processes of devotional service. I'm sure that if you are not aware of it, Prabhuji, is that this is the 9 processes of devotional service. Let me get back to the right page. The 9 processes of devotional service, which are very significant, is Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Pada Sevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dashyam, Sakyam, Atma Nivedam. And this is really the part, hearing. And I'm thinking to myself, I don't know if I can do all the rest of these. Serving the Lord's lotus feet, that would be a good thing if I understood even what that meant. Remembering Vishnu, I can try to remember, but I don't understand all the pastimes. And it says here that Prahlad Maharaj never forgot Krishna, even despite the constant tortures of his father, Hiranyakashipu. Deity worship. Deity worship is something that we someday will have. We will have deity worship. I've already experienced this with what's happening here in Columbus, that they don't they have, I say they, I mean somebody that I'm not sure of who always is that they are maintaining the deities. This is wonderful. It's a great thing that they're doing. But you don't need the deities to be perfectly pure, but you do need the deities in the beginning as a neophyte, because technically, mentally, you're not able spiritually to perceive Krishna directly. That is why Archa Vigraha, the appearance of the deity, is meant to be able to keep us able to fix our mind on God. So with all of these other processes, praying, executing orders, serving as a friend, this part, serving as a friend, I think I'm actually getting a grip on that, because I'm talking to Krishna and I realize he's my best friend. I realize but he is my best friend. That's no longer just a statement of intent. That is the actual understanding. I don't. Everybody else, no matter who they are, it's all part of this illusion of this Maya. Unless it's in a relationship to developing pure love of God, he is my only friend, my true friend, because he'll never leave me. And I look at some people sometimes, and I know this is from a mundane level, so this is mundane here. And I look at it, I say, Jesus, Lord, have mercy. But this is, ooh, now I know why God is the best friend for everybody. Because no matter what, he stays with them. He knows who they are in their pure state. He knows who I am. He knows who you are in your pure state. He knows because he made you perfect. He made you perfect up to the point where you still had freedom of will and you've misused that will, but the perfection itself is non-different than him in that state. And that's the key. So this is what I do. And I have realized, and I found this out a long time ago. This is a story I'll tell you. It's really a good story because it helped me to keep things in perspective. About, let's see, well, it must have been about maybe 2016. Yeah, about 2016. I was sleeping and I was having these dreams, and these demons were coming to attack me, and they were looking terrible. They were looked like Yamadutas, and they looked like demons. They were looking, might as well have been the same thing as a werewolf, and um, the Draculas, and all these other vampires and werewolves. There's demons coming, and they were attacking me. They were really attacking me. And sometimes I would wake up in the night and I'd be, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. My wife would wait, what's going on? At that point, I had a real clear understanding. I says, well, do you know why? Because there's nothing transcendental going on in your atmosphere. When you're asleep, you're completely at the mercy of Maya. And I thought about that and I says, well, I know how to solve that little issue. And so what I did is that I immediately started using, from there on, I started using this every day when I would go to sleep. And now, even now, I will go and I will put it on. I listen to this at night all the time. And I had this realization that as the mind, the Prabhupada explained the story that if there's something, somebody is calling you at night, wake up, there's a tiger coming, that you will actually be able to wake up because the hearing doesn't ever go to sleep. It's the one sense that doesn't stop even when we're sleeping. And that's another part. So I realized I'm going to play this, and the sound vibration itself is going to save me, and it's also going to purify me even when I'm sleeping. Because there's nothing else that needs to go into my hearing, my consciousness, that at that time it's like an open door. It's wide open. It's whole. Everything is coming directly in. I'm not being offensive. I'm not thinking about other things, even though I may be in a dreaming state. I'm still hearing. That's the nice part. That's the wonderful part about hearing. And I listen to Prabhupada. Hmm. That was another thing. As all of the things that I've just read that we're looking at, I can't control my mind. I can't control my senses. I'm trying. I do the best I can, but when I'm asleep, it's like an innocent state of existence. So I'm hearing Prabhupada chanting purely, constantly, constantly. So that means 8 hours, even if I don't do anything else during the day, for those 8 hours or however long I'm sleeping, that is what I am absorbing, and that is what I am hearing, and that is purifying my consciousness, because in order to be able to get out of this material world, we have to peel off all of the layers, these thick layers of the ego, the mind, the intelligence, the body. All of these layers are covering our pure consciousness. And because our senses are out of control, they're not completely purely focused, and our mind is not purely focused. That is why all of the what I just read, that is why all of that is difficult to overcome, because we are still dealing with the most basic uh, coverings, that we are influenced by the three modes of material nature. So that is the key to be able to play. So I would highly recommend you simply go get, I don't care if it's on your phone, you can do the same thing with your phone or with this. And I play it so low that my wife can't hear it. Now, she don't know that she's getting purified simultaneously, because the atmosphere is becoming purified. That whole thing, I never had to worry about no demons showing up again. I had this not too long ago. A devotee was explaining to me, I was in Mayapur, and I was sleeping, and I had just finished speaking with one of the Brahmins there, and he was this Brahmin. I mean, he is on it. He knew all the prayers and everything, and he was telling me how they had a couple of devotees that had been attacked by demons in their sleep, and that one of them had even become same thing as in a movie, that if you throw water on the demon or someone who's possessed, that they will scream and holler. They don't like the pain and everything. And I was thinking about that. And one night, because I had forgot to have this chanting on, I knew that I was being attacked. And these are deep, deep Brahmins. These are, what do they call it? Brahmin Rakshasas. Whatever the elements were, they were very deep. And I asked the devotee, I said, how is it that they're doing this here in in Mayapur, of all places, is such purified? He says, because they were devotees. And because they were devotees, they have a certain attachment to being in that atmosphere. But they're also still, now they become demons. So anyway, that's immediately I started putting this chanting back on. So that's something that I would suggest that everyone do. If nothing else, 24/7, you have it chanting somewhere in your house. It doesn't have to be loud. It doesn't have to be, because the holy name is not on a mundane level. So therefore, if it's just being vibrated, then regardless, the whole atmosphere will become purified, and you'll become purified. So and also on top of that is that I'm hearing Prabhupada chanting. So I know it's pure. It's not me chanting. And my chanting is, I don't even want to discuss it. But by hearing Prabhupada, just like I made these videos. I don't know, have all of you seen my videos before? So you know, these videos are just the other day, I was sitting here, I was thinking, I'm going to someday probably, I know I'm going to die. And I just didn't want to be sitting there all by myself, because, death comes to you at any particular point in time. So that's why I constantly have these videos playing, because no matter what, if I'm in the presence of Krishna, I can remember Krishna, I can hopefully be able to chant Krishna's name simultaneously. So basically, as far as that is concerned, the other thing I just realized the other day is whenever I go out in public, if I go to the grocery store, I have chanting going on. There's so many wonderful prayers, the Sringadev prayers, different chants and different mantras that we should be listening to. And I play it loud enough for me to hear. And at the same time, all of this background music that they have in the store, it's all influencing us one way or the other. We don't really know what we're hearing, because we know that they have subliminal messages in all of these things. So I start going out now. If I go out, I'll just have it on. If somebody gets close to me and they hear it, it's to their benefit. There's not people are not going to be all upset because you're playing nice, smooth, transcendental music. It'd be different if I was playing loud rap and so forth. But by playing that music, it does two things. It purifies my surroundings and my atmosphere directly, and it also helps to purify some soul somewhere we never know who's passing by, and then they just happen to hear the holy name, or they hear a transcendental sound vibration, because you have to remember it's the soul that's hearing these vibrations, not just simply our mundane ears. Oh, and so finally, remind me at the end, I want have any of you, Prabhu, Harinama, do you know Shambhu, the devotee named Shambhu?
I don't think so.
All right,
I
you'll
see the
know him.
face. Yes.
You will know him. You will know him. I met him in Vrindavan. He's one of my godbrothers, so I'm going to remind you about him.
Okay.
So basically, that's it. That's whatever I could discuss for this time. My realizations, as insignificant as they may be, but they're helping me to be able to at least feel comfortable that I'm not going to forget Krishna. I'm so fortunate. This is why the purpose of the chanting is significant, because it's not only, they say at the time of death, you have to be able to remember the Lord. You have to be able to call on his name. Technically, that's what we're supposed to do. But because we are able to even chant or call on him is not really technically, there's no guarantee in the same sense. Why? Because our physical consciousness, our mental consciousness, our present consciousness, it still has these desires. And if we're thinking that we're going to be able to get back to Godhead just simply by saying the holy name at the time of death, yes, that's what it says. But the reality is that we also will still be thinking, oh, what about my wife? What about my children? What about my bills? What about my car? What about this? What about that? We'll be thinking so many things that even though we're saying the names, there's still a possibility that we'll put ourselves in a situation where we have to take another birth. So the secret is to be able to ignore all of that by hearing and changing our chit aspect, our knowledge aspect, the subconscious mind, as it's called in the material world. Our subconscious is what really is more powerful than our present conscious mind. So we have to be able to focus on that. So I'm going to stop at that point. If anyone has any questions, I hope I haven't offended anyone. But I just wanted to be able to explain what I realized this week and prior to that, that by hearing, just simply put the stuff on, listen to it. When you go out and you're walking around, listen to it. Play it all the time, 24/7. Because I never know when, especially now, I tell people it's really funny because I could drop over any minute now. But it's okay. I don't have a problem with that. As a matter of fact, sometimes I get little heart palpitations, and I tell Christian, "Okay, fine, come on, let's go, let's go. I'm ready. Hit me, Lord. Because if you want to take me now, I'm ready because I'm ready, and I'm thinking about you, and I'm not fearful, and that's the other. So that's all I can say for that. Okay,
Hey,
bye.
thank you so much, Prabhu. Does anyone have any
You're welcome.
questions?
Um, that was some very great. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Hmm.
In terms of offensive chanting, and I
Hmm.
love that. I didn't really get in the beginning where exactly the publication of the is that a Prabhupada book that you were showing us?
It's quoted from the Adi Purana. There's many books in the Puranas, and this is something that Bhaktivinoda Thakur. You will love Bhaktivinoda Thakur. I'm taking more and more shelter of Bhaktivinoda Thakur because it's explained that the father, Prabhupada, is one thing, but the uncle and the grandfather are generally much more kind and forbearing with anything.
Hare Krishna